Today we decided to walk to school. At the corner, we waited to cross the street. The stoplight counted down. 15, 14,
31? 13?
We took a left on Carroll Garden Street.
Garden Street?
Loud music was coming from a car. Danny's a smart kid, but he gets so distracted.
There were so many other sounds, I didn't know what to focus on.
Danny, Earth to Danny. Suddenly he realized he forgot his homework again.
I left my homework on the table.
At the school steps, we hugged goodbye. I really hope he doesn't have another bad day at school today.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. That's why there's Understood.org, a free online resource for the parents of the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues. Get personalized recommendations, practical tips, daily access to experts, and more. Go from misunderstanding to Understood.org. Brought to you by Understood and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. You're listening to The Secrets of Success. I'm your host, Bill Horan, and today we're speaking with Tiffani Bova, author of Growth IQ. Tiffani, you mentioned in your book, and I'd like a little explanation on this, you say we must consider the context. And what does that really mean? If we want ideal growth, what is that word context? What does that mean?
Yeah, we were talking about it a little bit ago, right? For me, it's making sure you understand two things. One, what's going on around you. So if your business is serving a highly regulated industry, what are the regulations? If your industry is focused on a particular demographic, let's call it millennials or retirees, do you know what those two demographics are looking for? So understanding externally what's going on around your business. But more importantly, the context of your own capabilities. What products do you have? How often do you refresh those products? What are your distribution capabilities? And really taking a real, honest look at what you are capable of doing yourselves prior to making any moves for growth, because this is where either a cooperative arrangement with someone who you may feel you compete with today, it may be a way that you can offset the fact you can't keep up with demand, or you may partner with somebody who would be far better at doing logistics and shipping than having it done internally. The only way you can do that is if you really do take an inventory of your business on all the things you're doing as it relates to growth, and you need to be honest about how capable are you to do them, and then, at the heart of all this is change. What are you willing to change, and what are you willing not to change, and then what's the best way to do that?
Now, Tiffani, I always learn from other people's mistakes. I think if I see that someone, drives down the wrong road and gets a flat tire, I go the other way. But and in keeping with that, I think it's on page 7 in your book, you have a list of don'ts, several things that we shouldn't do, and that's definitely kind of leading us into a mistake. Can you tell us what those don'ts are? Yeah,
so one of them is an often attempted growth strategy, and that is to copy what you think your competitors are doing. So you have a donut shop on the corner, but there's a donut shop 3 blocks away, and you feel like they're busier than you are. So you go and you spend some time in there, and then you come back to your shop and you replicate everything that they did, from the chairs to the lighting. You copy everything, but that's not who if your customers wanted that, they would go 3 blocks away to that other donut shop. And so sometimes copying what your competitors are doing is not the best for you. And the reason is going back to that context. They don't have your customers. They don't have your current situation and your current products. They are not you. And so just replicating them carte blanche, I think, is a dangerous thing. The other is not getting distracted about how you either got to this place that you're growing or got to this place where you find yourself in a growth stall. You can't worry about sort of what has happened 12, 24 months from now. All you need to worry about is how are you going to course correct to prepare yourself for the next 12 to 24 months. So if there's a lesson to be learned, learn it, but don't dwell on all the reasons why you are where you are. The next is believing that what you've always done will continue to deliver, especially for those companies that are listening that are growing today. That's the first thing I hear. We're growing. We don't have a problem. And I say, Are you growing as fast as you were? Is it as easy as it used to be to acquire customers? And then usually I start to get them to admit, well, no, we're still growing, but it's getting more difficult. We're noticing that. And I said, well, if you're noticing that and you're still growing, now's the time to make the change. And then the last one, which I think is the most important, is just keep your mind open and your options open, and really be willing to dig in and make the necessary changes.
See, I would have made all those mistakes, and because I'm talking to you and looking at your book, I'm not going to make those mistakes. At least that's one or two items I can check off that I won't do in the wrong way. You also talk about the customer experience, and I always like numbers, and you have a great list in your book. I think it's on page 12. You say why the customer experience matters. And when I go in a store, I kind of look at the clerk and kind of check off in my mind all the things they may be doing wrong, or at least that's dissatisfactory to me. Can you give us a few of those statistics that would impress you?
Yeah, I like to start by, you brought up Uber a little bit ago, and I say I like to play off of what Clayton Christensen wrote in his latest book, Competing Against Luck, where everybody, whatever we acquire or buy is because we want a job done. And I put job in air quotes because if you're buying a donut, it's I was hungry, right? Or a cup of coffee, I want to wake up, right? So job in a loose term, not job as in your job 9 to 5. And so why would you choose Uber over a taxi? And some people may say, well, it's the app, it's convenience. I don't have to carry cash. I travel around the world. I don't have to carry currency in the countries I'm in. It goes directly into my expense report. And the most important to me really is that someone will know where I was last, especially when I'm traveling out of the U.S. and using Uber. So that to me has everything to do with experience and has nothing to do with the fact that a taxi could have taken me from point A to point B the same way Uber could have. So through lots of research, both in my previous life as well as in working here, plus numbers of other companies, they're finding that we as consumers are making brand decisions based on that experience. Like you said, like the store clerk, was the store clean? Were people friendly? If they're, at a restaurant, did you tip? If it was bad service and good food, would you go back? If it was really bad food and great service, you might still go back because you're like, look, the service was good. It might have just been an off night for the food. And so you give people a second chance, a third chance. You are making decisions every day to choose brands that give you better experience. And more importantly, we as consumers are willing to spend more money for a better experience.
And I'm seeing that just as you're saying it, I think it's 70% are willing to spend an average of 13% more with companies they believe provide excellent customer service. So if anybody's listening and you doubt why it's important to be good with your customers, this list will help. Tiffani, I'd like to mention to our audience once again that if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Secrets of Success on 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. I'm your host, Bill Horan. Today our guest is Tiffani Bova. She is the author of the book Growth IQ. And Tiffani, we're going to ask you where the book is available and if there's a website you want to tell us about.
Yes, the book is available at all of your local bookstores, Barnes & Noble, as well as online at Amazon.com, at Barnes & Noble, at 800 CEO Read, at a lot of the independent bookstores as well. They've been wonderful in supporting it. You can also check out information about the book at TiffaniBova.com/growthiq, or you can just go to TiffaniBova.com and navigate your way to the book page.
There you go. Now, Tiffani, you mentioned in the book that each employee must understand his or her role in delivering the product or experience. Certainly, we can understand the clerk at the counter who's handing someone perfume or a sandwich or whatever. But how about the accountant, the person in the back marketing department, people who basically are unseen? How do you get that message across to them?
Yeah, and so for people listening that are managers of, they don't need to be the CEO, but managers of people, this is really important. This comes down to leadership, and I use leadership as anybody running a team. It doesn't need, as I said, to be executive. And your ability to actually motivate and inspire people to do the kinds of change that is required when you start asking yourself these questions and you try to improve it. Going back to where we started this conversation a little bit ago around being uncomfortable. This is something that many leaders find makes them uncomfortable, right? Communicating often, walking around the office, making sure people understand the value of their role, listening in on customer conversations, going on sales calls, meeting with customers, things that get you out of the four walls of running the business and getting trapped behind your screen. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, this is really about making sure you're leading people from where they are to where you want them to go. And when people are committed to your goal and the company's goal and the vision of the business, magical things happen.
Now, again, I mentioned that you have a lot of case studies, and you bring up Starbucks and talk about them as a model for stumble and recovery. Now, that's interesting and actually very important the way you show it in your book. Can you explain it shortly to us?
Yeah, so I had 30 case studies, and what I did was on each path I had 2 positive case studies and 1 cautionary tale. And I think many will be surprised that I picked Starbucks as a cautionary tale for customer experience, because they actually faced a growth stall a number of years ago when Howard Schultz was not the CEO and was asked to come back. And he nailed why they were having problems, that they had lost sort of their soul, and their soul was having an exceptional customer experience and providing value for the money that they were charging around an exceptional cup of coffee. And he felt like they had gotten away from that experience completely. And so they brought him back as CEO, and he came up with a list of a number of things that he needed to do over time. And, it was the first of many that he did over the point in time where he came back to being a CEO. But from January 2008 through April 2017, when he became the executive chairman and had stepped down as CEO again, the stock's total return was 551%. So I would have to say that, getting back on that right track was a way for them to find their way back to growth. And then the lessons that they learned from it, they were able to apply and continue to apply even today.
It wasn't easy, as I read in your book. I mean, it took a lot of work. I think he had 5,000 emails from customers or something like that. But it definitely worked. And for a return, what did you say, 527%? Was that?
551%.
51,
yeah.
Even better. For that kind of return,
right.
I would say he did a very good job. He should be a model for that. And you chose the correct company. Tiffani, we want to thank you. It's really a very interesting book. And I'd say to anybody, if you're thinking of growing your business, it's a lot of fun to learn from other people's mistakes, what they did, and how you can use some of their good points and avoid their bad points. The book is Growth IQ. It's by our guest, Tiffani Bova, B-O-V-A, and her first name is spelled T-I-F-F-A-N-I. And Tiffani, the website real quick?
TiffaniBova.com is a great place to find out all the information.
Easy enough to remember. Thanks so much for a wonderful book and a wonderful interview.
Thank you, Bill, for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. We'd like to let our audience know that you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, asking you to please join us again next week at the same time when we will continue our journey to success.